It's over, guys. The international break, it's done. Welcome back to the League of 72 live every Thursday, 4 p.m. We're going to be diving into some big talking points. And we've got some great guests as well. And Allcott's getting the iPad out. He's going to be doing some tactical insights, let's call it that, on Tranmere in League 2. And we'll have a little look at League 1 as well. Welcome to League of 72. If you haven't watched one of our streams before, my name is James Allcott, and I'm a QPR fan, and I get to talk about QPR in this live stream as well because there are so many big derby games this weekend. And I'm looking at the chat right now, and the title, of course, is what is the biggest derby in the Championship? Because there are three really, really big ones this weekend. We'll give you three options today for the poll, but I'm looking at the chat already, and there's a few other ones. Let me know who you support and what your biggest game of the season is. What is your derby? Let me know in the chat. We'll read through a few later down the line. We're going to be doing a preview on three big ones that are occurring this weekend. And the poll is open now, all being well. We've got West Brom. Sorry, we've got Brum against, I wrote Brum. We've got Birmingham City against West Bromwich Albion. And we're about to chat with Brummy Joe and Louis Bent from the Baggies podcast. We've got QPR versus Fulham, West London derby. I'm going to be there. We're going to be talking about that. And we've got Swansea versus Cardiff. Which one out of these three is the biggest derby? Get voting right now. I'm going to go over and vote Fulham QPR. Of course I am. 10%. That's just me then, I guess, voting. And before we get into all the football chat, we did just want to take a moment just to kind of not reveal the news because, of course, David Brooks did so himself, but just reflect on the news that David Brooks has been diagnosed with cancer. He put forward this message on Twitter. He said, "This is a very difficult message for me to write. I've been diagnosed with stage 2 Hodgkin lymphoma and will begin a course of treatment next week. Although this has come as a shock to myself and my family, the prognosis is a positive one, and I am confident that I will make a full recovery and be back playing as soon as possible." From myself, from I'm sure everyone in the chat, from you guys watching, and from everyone at League of 72, we wish David all the best. Probably one of the most talented players in the Championship right now, and we want to see him back on a football pitch as soon as possible. So we wish him the very, very best. Some things are much bigger than football itself, but we always rally round the people that need it, and David needs it right now, so we all wish him the very, very best. Let's move on and let's dive into the Championship then, because as I said, some really, really huge games this weekend. It's been a couple of weeks, isn't it, of course? And some of you guys might not have looked at the league table for a couple of weeks because you might not have wanted to. I've been just looking at it most days, really. QPR in 6th there, Bournemouth top of the table. We spoke with Back of the Net last week about their rise up the table, but there's some really, really huge derby games this week. And we're going to kick off with a Birmingham derby. Because we've got Birmingham City, who are on a tricky run right now. They're taking on West Brom. That's the first of 3 huge derbies in the Championship. So let's dive into this one first of all, because there's 14 places and 10 points between the two. And I would imagine one of our guests was hoping it would be a little bit closer. Let me introduce them. And actually, let me introduce a boy band of 3 people all wearing grey. We didn't realise we were going to do it, but there it is, right on cue. I think you'd be lead vocals, Joe, as you're in the middle there, mate.
Yeah, of course.
And me and Louis will do the backing dancing. Welcome both of you. Brummy Joe, if you are a Birmingham fan, go and check out Joe's YouTube channel. His first name is actually Brummy. Second name is Joe.
Yeah,
it's odd, but works out, isn't it? It's a coincidence. Let's talk about this game. Let's talk about both your clubs. And I'll tell you what, Louis, let's start with West Brom, because second in the league, but it's mixed reviews, isn't it? Everything I'm sort of hearing is that not everyone's as happy as you would expect. Why is that the case?
To be honest, James, I can't quite grasp why it isn't all happy days at West Brom, to be honest. You know, we've only just been beaten for the first time this season, last time out against Stoke. So it's really be all plain sailing for Albion. Obviously, Valerian Ismail's come in, implemented his style of play well. The club are looking up for the first time in since probably Slaven Bilic came into the club. So I can't really understand it, why some fans are particularly upset. I think it's more to do with the fact that we're watching a bit more of a direct brand of football than when we were last in the Championship, which was with Slaven Bilic. So I can't quite grasp why the fans are a bit disgruntled. Second in the league, in an automatic promotion places, that's where we want to be come the end of the season. So yeah, I don't quite get it, but yeah, I'm certainly confused by the Albion fans' verdict at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, you speak of that the change. There's been a lot of change at both of your clubs. But sticking with West Brom just for a second, Valerian Ismail comes in. There's this Valerian Ismail way, which worked very, very well for Barnsley. He's then come to West Brom. I wonder if that's part of it. There's a kind of, with West Brom having gone up the season before, 2 seasons ago, playing really, really good football, there's an understanding that you can go up that way. And I wonder this more direct style is just a little bit less pleasing on the eye. One man that he brought with him from Barnsley was Alex Mauer, who, I mean, to be honest, I just want to bring him up as an excuse to show some of his goals, because the guy he's got some shooting boots. It's absolutely ridiculous. How important is he to that sort of transition? That it's rock and roll football, and you're gonna have a few rocky moments, and I think it's at the back where it's a little bit rocky. Look at that for a strike. But in terms of getting on a roll, he's been a big part of West Brom being second in the table right now, surely.
Yeah, he's been massive. I think obviously we can't quite see the impact that he's had off the pitch, but I think coming into a new style of play that's more direct. Obviously, we had Big Sam last season, which was kind of a little bit similar in some games with the pressing and the direct football. But I think certainly with Alex Moa, I think off the pitch he's going to have had a massive difference to the other players coming into Valerian Ismail's style of play. Obviously, he's familiar with the manager. He's familiar with what the expectations are from Ismail. So I think we can't really underestimate the influence that Alex Moa has had on the pitch. But also, I think off it, he's had probably a bigger impact than I think most of us think.
Yeah, you're one of only 4 teams to be unbeaten at home, Joe. This might be where I bring you in for that little bit of positivity. Right, you ready to go? Having watched, do you keep a close eye on West Brom? Because the last game from West Brom surely maybe gives you a little bit of hope. The defeat against Stoke, because Stoke were much better than West Brom in that game.
Oh, is that? I mean, I thought the same thing about when we played Fulham, and I think they'd just come off the back of a defeat. It's not really. It's more about us, I think. I just think, like, no matter who we're playing at the minute, it's going to be difficult, and we've got problems that we need to address. And I think there's going to be quite a few changes coming up, because the past few games, ever since the Fulham one, we played that game, we lost 4-1, but we had a lot of positivity because we were like, we had a lot of chances, we created a lot. But now, in the last 3 games, we've really struggled. 1 with creating, and 2 with finishing. We're really struggling to finish our chances. And then when you combine that with some appalling defending, especially in the last few games, we really need to change it. And I do think it's a problem behind the scenes, and Bowye's addressed that as well. So I don't know. It can go one way or another, but it's going to be a different looking team tomorrow.
Yeah, that wasn't the positive I was looking for. I'll bring it to you. So let's talk Birmingham then, because last game was terrible. Let's be honest. Getting beat by. But I also wonder if you got caught by a Forest side that's like right in the honeymoon of a new manager bounce. And like you said, it was a really strong start to the season. Great win opening day against Sheffield United, beating them 1-0. Luton Town beating them 5-0 recently as well. And now winless in 6. The positive thing, I think, is exactly what you're saying. Is if you're creating chances, then you've got a chance, haven't you? On average, you're creating 2.3 big chances per game. The big problem is you're missing 1.8 big chances per game. You hit the woodwork 4 times. And you're only scoring 0.9 goals despite having an XG of 1.55, which basically means there's a good team in there, a functional team in there. It's the final bit, and you're not short of strikers, are you? What's going on with the front men?
You know what? Like, you are right, and I think in a lot of those games that you're talking about, and it is frustrating to watch sometimes, but you do think it's, especially against Forest, it was another one of them games where you're just thinking we're not getting the rub of the green. We can be playing for hours and hours on end and we're just not going to score. It's one of them days. And many games that we've had as well. I mean, look at this for a strike, by the way.
I know.
There's no one stopping that grab. And
Exactly.
Unbelievable. But yeah, I think it's one of them that probably in the past 3 games, you're thinking you score first and you've got a big chance of taking all 3 points, because the one thing about a Bowyer side is he does know how to shut out a team. But there's been arguments with everything with the formation. A lot of fans are starting to turn and thinking 3 at the back with the wing backs isn't becoming a good idea. But overall, like, I know what you mean. Maybe I'm being a bit negative, but I think I was always expecting a bit of a blip. You know, he came in and we had that new manager bounce at the end of last season. And it's not going to be smooth sailing. Sometimes you're going to get a bit comfortable, but you have to get through these times. And like, definitely no one's thinking get rid of Bowyer.
No one's okay. So that's fine, because I think that there's a few things with Bowyer. I think it's, you know, he's passionate, but he's kind of smart with it overall up to a point. And like you say, you were saying before we came on air, he's quite transparent, and that kind of works if you get the right reaction. But if it doesn't, then it can become a little bit dangerous and can get people's backs up. Like, you go into this game now, because I think we're seeing this with a few of the teams this week. We're about to talk about Swansea versus Cardiff, and it's a similar thing. I wonder if there's a few teams in the division this year going down a road and they've got to stick with it, because they've and I think both of your teams are like that. I feel like, from what I'd seen from Birmingham, the desire there was, you've got Chukwuemeka, you've got Deeney, you've got Jukovic. Let's get some crosses in the box. And let's win games that way. Hogan can live off the scraps a little bit. With West Brom, it's hectic. You know, you're pressing monsters, and I just think there's a big part of this where the pressure builds for all of us, where we're desperate for our team to do well, and there's going to be some moments now where the pipe's going to burst a little bit. But you don't feel like that's going to be Birmingham anytime soon, because I think most teams in this division, when you've lost, as you say, you've lost 4 of the last 5 I've got here. The tension is slowly going to build. Like, how long can that tension build for Birmingham?
Well, I know exactly what you mean. And I mean, a lot of us saw it coming. But I think you have to step away from it. And you know, if you look at us the past, 6-7 years, we have had a constant habit, and it's a habit throughout, for many clubs, of just things aren't going right, let's sack the manager. And I think it's going to take a while. There's a lot that's lingered on from previous managers, whether it's to do with contracts, whether it's just a little bit of a dressing room atmosphere that once that new manager bounce has gone is always lingering. And I think you're seeing the same thing happen every single time. And I think it's one of them. For me, I mean, I think a manager, just in general, should be given a lot more time than they are. I don't think there's a lot you can do in such a short period of time. You're seeing managers getting literally weeks, months to turn a team around. And I think Blues have got a lot of problems. And the one thing about Bowyer, and the one thing that everybody says, is he is a Birmingham City style manager. You talk about West Brom with it not being as attractive football, maybe. As Blues fans, we're happy. We don't play attractive football. We get it up to Duke and we try and get him to knock it in. That's it's as simple as that. And I think once we start, every time we try and play good football, it's when we start to come back and focus on that we actually play well.
Right. So going into this game, then, is this not one for the neutral? Then, is there any football going to be played? Like, what do you see, Louis, being the key areas of this game? Like, how do you see yourselves winning? And if so, how?
I can definitely see us getting a result, but I think Albion fans tend to have quite big expectations in terms of scoreline. So they think, oh, we'll batter Blues. They're not very good at the moment and stuff like that. I've always seen this over the past few seasons we've been in the Championship. I've always seen a close game between us and Blues. I'm sure Joe will remember the game at St Andrews a couple of seasons ago with Charlie Austin. That was such a close game, and it was won by 2 really good goals from Charlie Austin. So it's never normally as one-sided as West Brom fans do think. I do get my hair off with them sometimes because it's never been that sort of margin really. But I think the game's really going to be won in how effective both teams can be on the counter, because we're not a side that likes to have the ball, and by looking at some of Birmingham City stats, they're not a side that likes to have the ball either. So it's sort of going to be a you have the ball sort of thing, and we'll try and hit you on the break. And I think both teams are going to do that. And I think it's going to be won on the counter attack. It depends on who's more effective and who's got that pace and who's got that ability to drive forward quicker than the other. So yeah, I think counter attacking is going to be a big part of it, and whose defence can really sort of stem the flow of the opposition attack really.
Okay, and Joe, who's going to be the key man for you guys in this one?
I mean, I think all season the one player that's been consistently good for us has always been Chong. When he's been missing, we've really noticed it. There's, like I said before as well, though, there's going to be a few changes, and I think we really need a leader. And whoever that's going to be, I've got a feeling that we're going to drop our captain. So whether it's going to be Duke, that's going to be that leader, I think that could have a big part to play as well. But Bowyer said he's given players a chance this season and they haven't taken it. So now it's time to give other players a chance. It could go one way or the other. I think if they really step up and want to take it, Derby Day, the fans allowed, you just don't know what could happen really. So I'm holding out hope.
Oh no, very good. Okay, well, let's finish off with a prediction then, guys. And also, my producers has made it very clear that I need to ask you this question. So, give me your prediction on the game, and then what I would like is for you to tell me who is the bigger club out of the two of you and why. Louis, I'm going to come to you first. Prediction, then who's the bigger club and why?
Right, prediction, I'm going to go, I've said on my podcast several times, 1-0 West Brom, and I think it's going to be an own goal from Birmingham to settle it, to be honest. I think it's going to be that close. I think I'd be slated by West Bromwich Albion fans if I didn't say that we were the bigger club, simply due to the amount of time we spent in the Premier League, and that over the past 10 years. And I think that's probably got to be more than Birmingham City at the moment. So I'm going to say West Brom, but simply for fear of coming home to pitchforks at my door, I think that's probably more the case. But Birmingham City are a pretty big club, to be fair. And it's
yeah. Come on.
It's nice. It's nice.
Don't put it out now.
It's nice to have so many big clubs in the Midlands.
True, very true. Yeah, there's something going on in the Midlands at the moment. Joe, prediction and same question, mate.
I'm gonna go for a 1-1. I'm never the most optimistic. I think looking at us this season, 1-1 away from home against second in the league, that's a good result. It could go the other way, but I'll go for 1-1. And I'm going to go for Birmingham City. League Cup. Yes, we've been out of the Premier League a little bit, but I mean, in my lifetime as well, with all of my mates, even the Villa fans, they haven't seen their team lift a trophy. I have. So I'll go with that one.
There you go. It's a good argument. Put that in your back pocket, Birmingham and West Brom fans. Boys, thank you so much for spending a bit of time with you. Thanks for coming colour coordinated as well. Fantastic stuff. Go check out Brummy Joe's YouTube channel. Go check out Louis' podcast, the Baggies podcast. And good luck to both of you at the weekend.
Cheers,
boys. Right, lots of derbies to get through. I'm looking at the chat here. And if you are watching right now, if you're joining me live, please do consider hitting the like button if you're enjoying the stream. And make sure you check out some of the older streams as well. We've got some tactical bits and pieces, as you're going to see in this one. But also in last week's, for example, we were looking at who the best player in League One is. So if you're a League One fan, that might be the one for you. Alex is saying, Derby versus Huddersfield is the biggest game. I'm not sure about that one. In terms of the poll, where are we at with the poll? We've got West Brom 35%, Fulham QPR 18%. I think that's essentially my vote, I think. And maybe QPR forever, who's in the chat. And Swansea City out in front at the moment. We'll talk about Swansea City in a second. Let's talk about my team. Let's talk about QPR versus Fulham. The game's at Craven Cottage. A really nice away day. I always like going to that one, although sometimes the result isn't as I would have hoped. What I would like to know is what you think the score will be in this game, guys. So I'll have a look in the chat in a second. But this it's really, really interesting. We've got two teams that love to get on the ball. It's great to have a West London derby, and it's at 12:30, and it's two teams that are kind of similar, which makes me a little bit nervous. Fulham, I think, are everyone's favourites to win the league this year, but they're on a bit of a sticky patch at the moment with the last 3 games, losing their last one against Coventry 4-1. But let's start with QPR, my team. We won 3-2 in our last game. We're in 6th position at the moment, and I think what's interesting about us is that you're going to get a cracking game. Lyndon Dykes, I nearly wore my Scotland shirt today, just because he's been absolutely on fire for us. The problem for us is that we've got poor PPDA, which is passes per defensive action. That's a great example of it with that goal, where we're not really pressurising the ball. We're 6th worst for that. And we went 2-1 down in this game. It was an absolute thriller for us. We have got a few big guys up top. Jimmy Dunn, who's come in from Burnley, has been great, starting to establish himself. Look at this. That is wanting to win. Lyndon Dykes. You will never see that again. But this is the guy for us. And I want to show some of his goals again, because we've got a few key players. And when it comes to a game like this Ilias Chair, he is, he was a chief creator for us last season. Actually, he's kind of become a bit more selfish in the way that he's playing this season. Last season, he got himself 8 goals throughout the season. This year, 4 goals already. A few from this sort of area of the pitch. It's quite an interesting team we've got, QPR, because on this left-hand side, both him and Chris Willock, who've been our 2 standout players, have been both sort of working that left-hand side of the pitch. There you go. You can see again with his right foot. He's going, see you later. Goes for a cup of tea. And here, look, again, being a little bit more selfish. If he doesn't score that, we're all very, very angry, of course, at this game. But QPR, we've got a good base to our team, and we've got great dribblers. You know, we've got more than anyone in the league in terms of Chris Willock, 95 so far this season. I think the next highest is 78 in terms of progressive dribbles, and Chair's in 4th place, and he is going to be absolutely crucial for us, because we're coming up against the Fulham side that is just so strong. Every time I look at not just their lineup, I find myself scrolling down a little bit and seeing the bench that they've got. I mean, it's an absolute joke. That said, as I said, Coventry gave them a bit of a spanking in the last game that they played. They were 1-0 up at half-time. And Mitrovic, who we're going to talk about in just a second, scoring a game. But then Coventry kind of put them to the sword. And I was chatting to the guys at the Fulhamish podcast this week, and they were saying that pressing is the problem that they've had in the games that they've dropped points, like of Blackpool. You've got Bristol City as well, had a little 20-minute spell where they started to hurt them by pressing. And then Coventry, running up 4-1 winners in this game. Actually, the XG was pretty close between the two of them. Gyökeres, of course, is having a season of his life at the moment. And so I think it's slightly misleading. I think the domination of Fulham generally, their XG is incredibly high. And all the stats in terms of getting the ball in the box and getting the ball to their main man, who is probably the best striker in the Championship, Mitrovic, means that I'm very, very nervous about this West London derby. He's always in the penalty box. He reminds me a little bit of Jamil Matt, who's for Forest Green Rovers, who's just staying in there, waiting for those creative players to get the ball to him, and then he's slotting home fantastically. 12 goal involvements so far. His XG is 11.32, so he's running a little bit hot, but not much really. He's pretty much bang on. He's had 46 shots, which is miles more than anyone else in the league. Second for touches in the penalty area. One couple of interesting elements, I think, to this is the fact that we've got a couple of players who are kind of coming back from internationals, but Fulham in particular, Anthony Robinson, who's had 18 key passes so far this season. The next best in the division is 12. He's on international duty along with Reed, and both of them are coming back really, really late. So for a 12:30 kickoff, this could hurt them a little bit. I'd love to know what everyone thinks in terms of the final scoreline. 2-2, says Adam Evans. I would take that. I think for us, I'm really worried about the clash of styles in the fact that we're quite similar in terms of our styles. So I'm concerned that the fact that we don't press like other teams do, really, and the fact that we've got Lyndon Dykes, who's played 290s, he normally doesn't play these kind of games. It's going to be down to Andre Gray and that man that the guys were talking about earlier, Charlie Austin, to maybe sneak us a goal. My concern is that because we don't press, they will have quality, and they, especially at home, I'm a little bit concerned. But I'll never go against the mighty Queen's Park Rangers. I believe we'll win 2-1. Andy Evans says 2-2. And Tacticality is talking about Coventry. I'd like to see them in the Prem. Well, I mean, that's not what we're talking about, Ali. Shame on you. Alex A says Fulham to win 2-1. Fulham will certainly be the favourites. Sol Harris Woodfin 2-1. It's going to be goals, apparently. Stoko Pop says 2-2. And tacticality, there he was. He was giving it at the start. 2-2 as well. So it's guaranteed. Everyone's saying 2-2. Unbelievable stuff. Now, when it comes to the poll, the biggest derby this weekend is Cardiff-Swansea, the South Wales derby. This is so tasty because if you have a look at the table, they are right next to each other. Such a hotly contested derby between the two teams. And what adds even more spice to it is the fact that no team, Swansea or Cardiff, have ever done the double over each other. Ever. So whoever wins this first game puts a lot of pressure on the second game if there is a winner. Both sides are on 11 points at the moment. And what's amazing about this game is just the incredibly polarizing styles of the two. Swansea are losing possession, and it's a team that loves possession in Russell Mine's Swansea side, and that's Swansea, isn't it? That's always been Swansea. They've been very clear with their philosophy. Against the Cardiff City side that is afraid of the ball, doesn't like the ball, and likes to play the game in the sky. And it's a very troubling time for Cardiff City at the moment, on a horrible run of defeats at the moment. 7 out of the last 8 games. They've lost 5 on the spin. Swansea, in terms of losing possession on average, 134 times per match. Cardiff are losing at 180 times per match. So two very, very different teams. One great example of the way that Swansea like to play and kind of suck opposition's formations out of position is the goal from Jamie Patterson against Fulham a few weeks ago. You can see here a lovely little turn from Pirro, who we're going to talk about in a second as well. Great little turn. Just sucking players in. It's a slow tempo. They'll be on the ball as much as they can and wait for the opportunity. And that's a great example of it. At times it can feel a bit tippy-tappy and frustrating because it's gently probing. That little moment, you take 2 players out, big gap through the middle, and Jamie Patterson puts it away fantastically against a really good side. And what a little turn there as well. I think it's that Adoy got put on his bum there. In terms of aerial duels, to see the other side of it, I mean, it's fascinating. The average possession, with Swansea is 64.5%. For Cardiff, their average is 47.4%. And when we look at aerial duels, Swansea are winning 14 aerial duels per 90, which is 43.5%. Cardiff are winning 39.1 per 90 with a success rate of 57. So 2 very, very different teams. Let's talk about Cardiff for a second, because after an actually quite a decent start, and they went unbeaten in that first 5 matches. You remember Flint was top scorer in the division, I think, with 4 goals. And that said a lot. They've picked up 8 points in those first 5 games. And since then, only 3. The wheels have really, really fallen off. And I've been listening to a few Cardiff City fans and Cardiff City podcasts recently, and they're really not happy. This is a club that they feel should be, as a capital city, should be in the Premier League. And this, we were talking about the pipes bursting. This is one of those games. This is the worst game that Cardiff could have at this moment in time. Having that horrible run right now, playing against a team that looks good in possession, a good footballing team, and you've got Mick McCarthy who's playing 5 centre-backs at the moment. It's really, really confusing. And the performance against Reading was better, but the game before that, the game against West Brom, was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. West Brom, of course, are a good side. But he opted to play 5 centre-backs in this game, which was very confusing because you've got Joel Bagan, who's a left-back, Perry and G, a right-back, both staying on the bench. And Cardiff, of course, lost 4-0 in this game at home. Cardiff didn't register a single shot on target. They had a lack of presence out wide massively. They attempted 12 crosses. Only 2 of them were successful. And you had Joel Bagan on the bench who, on average, attempts 1.1 successful crosses per game, which is like half of what you were achieving without him. So really, really strange affair at Cardiff right now. And for a team to kind of truly progress as a football club, they have to play better football than this. And so Mick McCarthy's got the experience. Has he got the ability to change this, this state of affairs for them? For Swansea, I spoke about it a little bit earlier, but Joel Pirro looks really, really nice. New signing this season, and the goals that he's been scoring this year is kind of given them that opportunity. Not involved as much as I think as people would like at times, but the goals that he's scoring have really kind of allowed them to not be in a worse position than they have been. I mean, there's always been a lot of talk about Russ Martin needing a bit of time to kind of get them playing the way he wants them to play, which is quite risky at times. It is open, it is high risk as a style, which can leave yourselves open. And they've made 4 errors that have led to shots this season, and they've also given away 2 penalties. But Pirro has great hold-up play, feels very, very complete as a striker. Great little pickup for them, and he's a he's a good finisher. He's a very, very good finisher. So, I think this is the tensest game of all three, I've got to be honest. And probably the most hotly contested as well out of the rivalry. And that's probably why they're winning the poll right now. I'd love to know what people think in terms of the scores for this. 3-2 Swansea, says Alex A. I think if Swansea win, and QPR Forever says the same, Swansea win for me, and McCarthy is getting his P45. You would imagine it would be very difficult for him to come back from a heavy defeat or a conclusive defeat. And the problem is, whatever happens, whoever loses this game, the style of play will be come under scrutiny massively. And I see this going badly, I've got to be honest, for Cardiff at the moment. They have got the personnel, but I think the possession-based style of Swansea is not a nice style for Cardiff to come up against right now. And I think they'll probably have the makings for it. So what I do want you guys to do is get your predictions in for all three of these monster derbies. Now, whether you're watching in the stands, you're watching your side at home, or you're following on the go, make sure you get on the Sky Bet EFL Rewards app this season. You can check into games wherever you are each week to give yourselves a cracking chance of winning some top prizes. Signed shirts, match tickets, VIP experiences, just to name a few. And you can enter your predictions across the league to earn yourself a spot on the leaderboard and see how you shape up against other EFL fans. As far as matchday rituals go, this is definitely one worth getting on. Link is in the description. Make sure you go and check it out. He's good looking, isn't he? He's a good looking guy. EFL Rewards, get involved with that, because with the return of the football this week, a signed shirt for every club. I actually had to read this 3 times. A signed shirt for every club will be won this weekend. So make sure you check in wherever you're watching the game. Link is in the description. As I just said, loads of prizes to be won. Let's move into League One. Let's have a little look at the table. There were some games, but the table sees Plymouth Argyle, who on League of 72, we spoke about Ryan Lowe's men. We said how good they were. And were people listening? Yes, they were, clearly. And Plymouth have been listening as well with a great victory. And let's have a quick look at the results, because what we're going to do now is we're going to have a look through these games one by one. Obviously not a full set of fixtures last week, but some interesting results. We did a whole host of stuff on League One last week. So if you're wanting a bit more League One, make sure you check out last week's stream where we dived into the top players in League One and had quite a tasty debate. Let's kick off with the Ipswich victory against Shrewsbury Town. Interesting one. This Macaulay Bonne on loan from Queen's Park Rangers is really, really flying for them. Connor Chaplin with the first goal for them. Shrewsbury Town got themselves back into it. Cottrell actually after the game said that they deserved something from the game. And they've actually had quite a tough run of games recently, playing Bolton, Wycombe Wanderers before that as well. But they need to start scoring goals. At the moment, Luke Lee's their top scorer with 2 goals so far this season. That's not going to be enough to keep you in the division. So for Shrewsbury Town, they need to score more goals. For Ipswich, just keep giving the ball to Macaulay Bonne. His conversion rate, I think, is like 47% right now, which is absolutely ridiculous. And there was a really lovely touch from him. Because he went and celebrated with a young lady called Maddie who'd lost her top. It had to be cut by paramedics because she has cerebral palsy earlier in the week. And when he scored, he went and ran up to her and celebrated with her, which was really, really nice. He is on fire. And in his post-match interview, he spoke about the reaction. He kept saying the reaction to Accrington Stanley. We needed a reaction to Accrington Stanley, which came off the back of a great win, where I think we're all waiting for Ipswich Town to just run away with it with the squad that they've got. And I think the Accrington Stanley game where they lost after having a great win in midweek is something that they've all remembered. And now he was saying that once they went into the lead, he was going, just hit the corners, I'll run all day, because they need to manage games a little bit better. And in this one, they did. Plymouth beat Burton Albion at home. Great first half from Plymouth that got them 2-0 up. They looked pretty comfortable throughout. Connor Grant with the first goal here. And that man that we spoke about. This is a really interesting goal because Ryan Lowe said after the game that Burton Albion, they put all their players up for corners. And so once the goalkeeper got it, he's quick to do that throw in behind to Ryan Hardy. And it was Ryan Broom who got the goal. Lucas Atkins got a consolation for Burton Albion, but quite a defensive side, Burton Albion, and Plymouth a very strong side at the moment. Ryan Hardy looking great again in this game. 18 shots to Plymouth, 8 shots to Burton Albion, 10 shots inside the penalty box as well for Plymouth Argyle. Slightly misleading them being top at the moment just because they've got a couple of games in hand on the opposition, but I mean, Ryan Lowe won't care about that at all. They are playing really, really great stuff at the moment. And Sheffield Wednesday beat Bolton. This was interesting. I've got a funny feeling about Bolton. I've got to say, they're probably one of the most competent teams in the league. And we might have to do a bit of a deep dive on them soon. But it was Sheffield Wednesday's day and it was Lee Gregory's day. Pinched it for them after Bolton had been kind of on top throughout it. It was quite a tight affair, to be honest. But Bolton was 7 shots inside the box. They also, Ian Evatt was speaking after the game, saying how frustrated he was, saying he wanted Dominic Iorfa sent off for a second booking as well. He's very bullish, Ian Evatt, and I like it. And I think this team, look at Afolayan when you watch the highlights of this game. He just looks a class above, to be honest. And I think if Doyle can start scoring consistently for them, then I think they really have a really strong chance of getting themselves in the playoffs this year. But that said, I'm saying that about so many teams in League One this season. It's ridiculous. One of those teams that I believe will be in the shake-up right at the end and are second in the league at the moment are Wycombe Wanderers, and a great home win for them as well against Gillingham. Probably my favourite celebration in the EFL right now is that of Gareth McCleary. We didn't get to see it that time, but he takes his band out of his hair and he'll fling it like he has done in previous games as well. Brandon Hanlon scoring the second goal, their trademark goal. Sam Vokes with the assist. So important for them. Gillingham, disappointing for them. They missed a penalty. Verdane Oliver missing a penalty after 31 minutes, which, away from home, if you can get yourself back to 1-1, that really can change it. So that hurt them. And I think Gillingham, they've just got to be careful because they want to retain status in the division. They don't want to be getting sucked into anything silly. Let's have a quick look at the fixtures then for this week for League One. But now we're against Morecambe, Cambridge United against Ipswich Town, which Macaulay Bonne was sort of saying is a bit of a derby for them. Of course, they haven't played each other too much over the years. AFC Wimbledon against Sheffield Wednesday, Fleetwood Town against Crewe Alexandra, Shrewsbury Town against MK Dons, another tough one for them. Doncaster Rovers against Wycombe Wanderers, Rotherham United are on a good run against Portsmouth, Cheltenham Town against Accrington Stanley, Oxford United against Plymouth Argyle, Lincoln City against Charlton Athletic, Bolton Wanderers against Wigan Athletic, and that same thing that happens every single time. Thank you. Gillingham versus Sunderland. The last game in there as well. Sunderland looking to get back to the top of the table. Right. It's time to get drawing on the old iPad. We're going big on the old Monday Night Football here at League of 72. Really, really excited about this. Another reason to subscribe to the channel. But before then, let's show you the results, of course, of League 2 from last week. Some cracking results. Absolutely fantastic. Tranmere winning 2-0 against Colchester United. We'll show you the goals from that in just a second. Forest Green Rovers are losing 2-0 to Swindon. Harrogate Town winning 6-1 against Scunthorpe United. Rochdale losing to Crawley Town, who are starting to put a real run together. Sutton United, what a game this was. I don't know how they won it, but they did. They're on a real roll now. Sutton United beating Port Vale, who are very strong as well. Walsall getting a hard-earned victory. They needed it as well. Cracking victory for Matt Taylor there. A 2-1 against Salford City. Mansfield Town struggling against fellow relegation-threatened side, Oldham Athletic. Stevenage with a 2-2 draw against Exeter City, who are drawing a lot of games this year. Bristol Rovers getting another victory. Joey Barton, it's a bit like Ipswich in League One. Joey Barton's Bristol Rovers, high expectations. They're starting to find their feet now. Barrow with a 1-1 draw against Leyton Orient. Hartlepool United beating Northampton. Again, another promoted side doing fantastically. And Newport County drawing against Bradford City. Here's the table. So it's all tightened up now. Forest Green Rovers, 23 points. Harrogate Town with 22 after that 6-1 victory. We did wonder if that might be the case. And Swindon in third place as well. Let's talk about Tranmere, though, because Tranmere in fifth position are on a cracking little run at the moment. But they had a poor start. At the first 5 games, and I mean, generally, they are still struggling to score goals. And that's what we want to dive into here, because I think a lot of people are kind of writing off Tranmere Rovers, and they shouldn't. So it was a really poor start. But in that last game that they played, we were just talking about it there, great win against Colchester United. 2-0 victory. Josh Hawks with the first one. We're going to be showing you some analysis on Josh Hawks in just a second. Deflected, a little bit lucky. Colchester will be gutted with that one, to be honest. But when it's going your way, it's going your way. And Peter Clark, what a header from the 39-year-old. He is absolutely fantastic for them. And they, at the back, are absolutely brilliant. And that's what we're going to dive into now. So, as I said, poor start to the season for them. Only picked up 5 points from the opening 5 matches of the season. But in those matches, they only conceded 2 goals. And they actually currently have the least amount of goals conceded in the EFL right now, with 4 goals conceded. This is similar to last year. Mickey Mellon, and it sort of highlights the good job that Mickey Mellon is doing at Tranmere in terms of making them defensively resolute. They've got 6 clean sheets so far this season, and 0.4 goals per 90 being conceded. And last season, this kind of comes off the back of last season. They only conceded 1.1 goals last season per 90. They kept 19 clean sheets, finished 7th, just outside the playoff. In the playoff places, excuse me. But they've gone to the next level this year, and it's about putting bodies on the line. They are blocking 33.3% of their shots that they're facing at the moment, which is the second best behind Hartlepool. And this is the crazy stat. This is the crazy one. Tranmere have conceded an XG of 13.96. So they should have conceded basically 14 goals this season, which is higher than the average of 12.6. But they've only conceded 4. So the big question here that we want to show you now is, are they defending avidly and doing fantastically, or are they the luckiest team in the Football League right now? My belief is that defensively, Tranmere are incredibly intelligent. And I've got a few clips here that I'm excited to show you, just to show you what exactly Tranmere are doing right now. Now, this is the first clip. This is from the Rochdale game, which actually they lost. But I think you can see by the fact they're only conceding 4 goals so far this season, I think it shows just how well they're led as a back 5. I'm going to let it run for a second. Of course, Tranmere in white, Rochdale in the blue. And they play with a back 5 and then a midfield 3. So if we see it run here, Rochdale, of course, have got the ball at the moment. And if I pause it in a second, there we go. We've got a back 5 for Tranmere Rovers, right? And what's great about them is just they're very intelligent in terms of the narrow press that they put together. If I do a straighter line, they've also got this midfield 3 as well here. So very, very solid there, but that can be picked apart if teams can get in between the lines. So you've got to know when to press, but you've also got to know who your runners are. And that's a really great thing that Tranmere are very well marshaled by Peter Clark in the middle here. Let me just circle him. And they've got to deal with Jake Beasley there, who's the striker for Rochdale. They've got Odo here as well. But generally, everyone knows who their man is. And if the free man is out here, out wide, they're absolutely fine with it. The thing that they don't want is people coming through the middle here. So if we let it run on a little bit longer, you can see how tenacious this Tranmere side is. Yes, it's a low block, which can be a little bit dangerous for them. But you can see, again, ready to go. But there's some danger coming here because you've got a player out here that Josh Hawks has to follow. And also, you've got too many bodies, really, here with your back 3. So you need to be careful in how you're going to marshal your defence and be, almost attacking in your defensive nature. So if we carry it on, what we can see is the tenacious nature of Jay Spearing. But what's really important there is, look, the following of the run. And it allows, he knows that he's going to take him. He can keep his position here as well. And the centre-back can be positive in how he defends. If we just let's roll that back again. Because if they don't follow that man, they're in trouble. He sees his runner and he follows him, and it allows everyone to be positive. So they're still snapping at heels. Jay Spearing's trying to read the press here. He thought it might have been here and he might have been able to read it. Doesn't happen, but the ball's coming back to a safer area, so they're still okay anyway. If we let it run, so they've still got their shape. They get back into the shape. It's really nice. And then once again, you've got a 3 here. You've got your back 5 as well. They look so solid here. So solid. And now you've got O'Keefe with the ball, and he doesn't know what to do. The reason he doesn't know what to do is, again, because Tranmere are just so well drilled. And you can see this by, you've got your striker here who's looking to cut out this pass. You've got Callum McManaman looking to stop this pass. I think it's Watson you've got here who's ready to get on him. And then also that allows Jay Spearing to be, proactive in terms of a sort of gentle press from a deep area. And if you see it as we play it on, because of this cracking defensive nature of Tranmere and how well drilled they are, what happens is O'Keefe kind of runs out of space. He's put under pressure. He plays a ball, and Tranmere have got the ball back, and then they're now in a lovely position to start a game. It just shows that they're really well drilled when they haven't got the ball. But of course, they have to have their players kind of back in possession. Back in position. Sorry. Second clip. This is a game against Salford, a game that they won. What I really like about this one is a couple of things. First of all, this is Tranmere, of course, with the ball. This is Chris Merry. We're going to be talking about him in just a second. Chris Merry's with the ball there, and they're committing bodies, which shows that they're still trying to obviously score goals, despite not scoring that many this season. We'll talk about that in a second. But what needs to be good for a lot of teams, any team, is you've got to be good in transition. You've got to get your setup back and sort out the jigsaw, put the pieces back into the jigsaw. And that comes from understanding your shape and being switched on to the space around you. So let's let this play for a bit. What we'll see is Tranmere trying to play. I think the ball goes into Nicky Maynard. He gets, they aren't able to keep a hold of it. And then, of course, there's a break here. So Salford are on their way. So here is now a moment where you could have some problems if you're not working hard to get back, and if your midfielders aren't being switched on, and of course, if you've got some runners coming through as well. Let's keep it playing. And the person that I want to show you, I might show you this twice if it's all right, because what happens here is they get their shape back as a collective, and Chris Merry, the defensive midfielder on this occasion, comes out and gets it. If I take it back, let's take it back. What you can see is the fantastic work from Chris Merry, and it's such a small thing, right? But watch Chris Merry now. Watch Chris Merry. He's going back and he's looking over his shoulder there to see what's going on. Am I okay with my midfielder here? Is he on his way back? How are we looking here? Because there's going to be some runners coming in a minute. We carry it on. Again, another little look around his shoulder. And now they're starting to get up. Another look around his shoulder there. See it again? And now he knows that if the ball goes this way, he can, let me draw that again. If the ball goes this way, he can go and commit. He knows he's got a guy in front of him and he's safeguarded there. He knows he's got a centre-back over here. He knows he's got his other centre midfielder here as well. So again, he can be positive with his defensive play. And that's exactly what he does, because he knows what's going on around the field. He comes inside and he goes, doesn't he? Straight away, goes and wins it. And, the less said about his pass after that, the better. But that's not the point. The point is that defensively, they're just fantastic. Final man I want to talk about has got to be Jay Spearing, 32-year-old. And he's just Spearing by name, Spearing by nature. Check that out for a tackle. I'm going to show that again. He's a crunching tackle machine. 2.5 tackles per match, which is more than it sounds like. And you just don't see tackles like that much more these days. He really does lead by the front in that midfield. And when you think of 32-year-old midfielders, normally you think, okay, they're going to sit there and they're going to sort of, this is a guy who was at Liverpool. He's just going to sit there, pass the ball about and not worry about it too much. Yes, he's received a red card, but he sets the tone for the team. And I think it's really, really important. And as the team's so strong defensively, in time, they will get better going forward. And look at this for a tackle. There he is. He doesn't need to be doing that kind of work. But he is, and he's setting standards. And I think that's a very promising thing to see from Tranmere. So for me, defensively, as you've seen there, really, really impressive. Are they lucky with their XG so far? I don't think so. I think they're performing so well as a unit that they deserve to be conceding just 4 goals this season. Credit's got to be given to the 2 goalkeepers that have played this season. You've got both ends of the spectrum, a 40-year-old Joe Murphy and Ross Doohan, who's on loan from Celtic. 23-year-olds come in and did brilliantly against Forest Green, making 5 saves recently. The problems, though, for Tranmere are going to be in attack. If they want to get out of this division, which they should do because they have the players to do it, big names in terms of Nicky Maynard and Callum McManaman as well. There's no reason why they can't get out of it. But at the moment, they're 14th for XG at the moment. And they've only scored 8 goals, which is it's not really enough. The XG at the moment is 1.25 per match. If they want to win games, they've really got to do a little bit more than that. And the big problem has been away from home. They're the only team in League Two who are still yet to score away from home. Whilst at home, they've scored 8 goals in 5 games. And the big thing for them is that, yes, they have that defensive structure, but they maybe need to be that little bit more cavalier going forward. And I think they can be. Like, if you look at the shot zones for their home games, I think we can show you it now. 58% of their shots in the 6-yard box, which is really, really healthy, right? If we have a look at it for the away games, just 49%. That's the problem. And that means you're going to be shooting from low XG areas, or you're not creating as much as you need to. So for a team that's currently doing very, very well for themselves, sitting in 5th in the league at the moment, they've got the mean defense. But if you look at their goal difference amongst anyone in the division, really there's very few teams with single figures for both after 11 games. So for Tranmere, I applaud what they're doing, but moving forward, they maybe need to score a few more goals if they want to get themselves back into League One. So those are my thoughts on Tranmere. Let me know what you think. If you're a Tranmere Rovers fans, let me know what you think about Jay Spearing in particular. I'm really, really impressed with what he's been doing so far this season for them. Cracking player to have in their side, and Peter Clark as well. They've got a few of those older boys, but there's still life in the old dog yet. So keep an eye out for Tranmere Rovers. Let's have a look at the fixtures for League Two before we wrap up. Here they are. Exeter City versus Newport County. Northampton Town lost. They have sort of had a tricky couple of games, so they need to sort themselves out. Not as tricky as Mansfield Town, I must say, who really need to sort themselves out, currently in 21st place. Oldham Athletic, they are currently second bottom as well, playing Stevenage. Colchester United, tough game for them against Harrogate Town. Swindon Town will want to keep it moving in the right direction. They've done very well, got a great point against Forest Green last week. They were taking on Rochdale. Leyton Orient against Walsall. Bradford City against Bristol Rovers. Tough game for both teams there. Scunthorpe United against Forest Green Rovers. That's going to be very difficult for Scunthorpe off the back of that 6-1 defeat to Harrogate Town. Salford City against Hartlepool United. Carlisle United against Tranmere Rovers, who we've just spoken about. Port Vale against Barrow. And 2 informed teams in the division. Crawley Town against Sutton United, finishing off the games in League Two. So there you have it, guys. The final vote, just to say, Swansea is the biggest one. I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. Right, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed the stream. There's so much content on the channel right now. There's a cracking video with Clinton Morrison and Troy Deeney on the League of 72 channel at the moment. 2 things that would be great if you could do it for me are liking the stream and, of course, hitting the notification bell and subscribing to the channel. That way you can join me every single Thursday at 4 p.m. when we go live. Thank you so much for spending some time with me on this Thursday. Have a great weekend. I hope your team does well, and I'll see you next week.